Okay, guys, so you guys should have the PDF file. It's on Google Classroom. And let's look at the PDF file. There's quite a few things on here that are going to be of interest, and I want to just make sure that we understand. So if you don't see, I want you guys to see I want to see your eyeballs. Okay. So there's 3 pages here. You're going to have, this is the stock, this is the main page, or the main part. It's like the original material that it starts with. And then this shows the holes and where they're going to be. And finally, it's going to show the pocket and how that works. Okay, so let's analyze this a little bit. Go into the first page. Obviously, the part is 1.9 by 4. You may not have noticed this, but at the corner, it actually has a note that says 4x, radius 0.01. So the 4x just means that on all 4 corners, it's going to be the same radius. Okay, so it's not really obvious unless you see that note. You can kind of see they show it a little bit rounded off in this, but yeah, so that's that. Let's go to the next page. This is where it gets to be a little more interesting. One thing I noticed is those are threaded, so we'll talk about that in a second. Just zooming in because notice the corner here, right? The corner says 0, 0. All right, and then it has what looks like measurements on every hole. All right, the first hole, it says 2x 0.150. So what does that mean? Well, let's look at the other one here. Let's look at the one that says 7. Those are just like identifiers. But this says 1.15. All right, and the next one, it says 2. All right, now notice, there doesn't really seem like they're measuring from in between these. What they're doing is they're using something called a baseline measurement. So you can see this is 0, 0 up in the corner, and then they're measuring to each piece. So this is 0.15 away. This one is 1.15 away. The next hole is 2 away from 0. And you can see the numbers are getting bigger, even though the gaps are essentially the same. So that's one way you can tell that. And if we kind of zoom out, it goes all the way over to here. And where the last hole is 3.85 away from 0, 0. And if you go up and down, it's the same way. So every hole has its own measurement. You'll notice that, like, if it has 2x, like this does here, that means that measurement applies to 2 different things. So, for instance, this 2x 0.3, that just means that it's working for this one and that one. All right, so it's 2x, 2 items. That makes sense. Now I'm thinking about it. So this one says 2x 1.75. So that means that this hole is 1.75 away from 0. And this hole is 1.75 from 0. All right, so those are baseline dimensions. The reason that they use baseline dimensions a lot in engineering is because it'll actually make it more precise in the end, right? So if you end up measuring, let's say, from here to here, and then you measure from here to here, and then you measure from here to here. Well, every time you measure that, even if you're using a caliper and something pretty precise, it actually introduces a little bit of error, just a little bit, right? But all those little bits of error, they stack up. So by the time you're all the way to the end of the other part, you know, it might be 0.01 off, which doesn't sound like much, but I don't know if you remember when we did the amplifier cases. Well, in my case, my one hole was basically a little bit off. I don't know if it was 0.01 or what, but I couldn't get the screw in there because it was just a little bit off. I was able to get 3 screws in, but there was enough wiggle room, and my measurement was just slightly off for that last one. So I had to just deal with 3 screws. That's not going to fly on really high precision things, because these guys, this might be going into a military application. It might be something that's very important, and these parts are relatively expensive to get made. You know, they might cost them a couple $100 just for one part. I mean, it's really just a little piece of aluminum, but they're paying for the precision and you know, the precision, like, engineering and the precision manufacturing. All right, so yes, I wanted to point out this too. Over in the corner here. Whoop. Oh, sorry. Over in the corner, we have that hole. Now it says, trying to get both. There we go. It says 7X 10-32 UNF 2B. All right, so what is that? Well, first of all, 7X means that's going to be for all 7 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes. Okay. So that's what the 7X in both of these mean. Now this is your actual like your threading. Now if you wanted to look up what this meant, I have some in the books. You can Google it. I'm not sure, something like 10 millimeters and 32 threads per inch or something. Don't quote me on that, but I usually just look it up when I need to know it. All right, this will be an option in Fusion that we can just select. So we'll get that. Now this right here, the 0.38 minimal depth, that means that it needs to go down at least 0.38. Now when we're doing Fusion, we can make it the minimum, or we can even make it like 0.381 just in case. But this note is important for manufacturing, because if they go to check that and it ends up being smaller than 0.3 because it's some kind of like manufacturing error, then they should go back and either make it a little bit deeper or maybe edit the CNC program. All right, so that's what this symbol means here. It just means that's 0.38 down from the top. So it's not necessarily a through hole, okay? And then this 0.7 diameter 0.21 chamfer. So it's just saying that the chamfer is like just like corner. It's like a locked off corner. It cleans up the hole, helps it so the screw goes in a little easier. It's less sharp. All right, so we'll get into that. And finally, let's look at this part. So you can see here in 3D how it looks. It's not going all the way through. It's more like a tub, which when we get into the manufacturing, this is going to be called a pocket. But yeah, you'll see it has a section. So this line here with the B and the arrows, that means that this section over here was basically, if you cut this part in half and then looked in the direction of the arrow. Because after you cut it, I mean, technically you have two choices. Are you going to look to the right or are you going to look to the left? In this case, based on the arrow, we're looking to the left. And that's what we would see here. Notice you could draw where these lines, where it intersects that, and you can see anything that's hatched is solid at that part. Anything that's not hatched means it's not solid there, but you can see if you were looking in this direction, you'd see these walls and stuff. You know, it's not solid, it's not being cut through, but it's visible. So that's what we'll be seeing here. So this bump out here, that is simply this line here. And honestly, this line here, you probably wouldn't really see that in real life, but that is where the curve kind of changes from one angle to the other. In real life, you probably want to see that. But yeah. So that's what that is. It gives you some information on what it looks like. It also tells you that this pocket is meant to be 0.5 deep. The reason it says 2x is because it's not only is it this section, but this section is also 0.5. Same here, you got 2x 0.25, that's there, and the 2x means it's also here. All right, they try not to duplicate unnecessarily. So let's try to, I mean, if you see the R or you see this 13XR, that means there's 13 points that have that same radius. Pretty much everything that's not labeled otherwise, right? Notice like these two are labeled, that one's labeled 0.188, and then the one back here is the 3x. All right, so anything else that's not this, you'll see it has a note on it. In this case, that says 2. You got to use your kind of judgment on it, but it looks like the 2 is referring to both of these. All right, so we'll see how they do it in the tutorial. I just wanted to point all this stuff out to you. The baseline dimension thing is pretty important to know. And knowing why we're doing it is pretty good, which is amazingly for accuracy. All right, let's get into the actual tutorial. If you didn't already do so, open up your blend, your Fusion. And I believe I asked you guys to check if you're in inches rather than millimeters. But for the sake of the video here, I want to show you how to do that again. Well, to check it, you could start drawing. And you can see mine says it's 1-2 inches. So I'm good so far. I'm just going to undo that. And if it wasn't inches, you go to your account. It might be your initials, might be a photo, whatever. Preferences. And when that opens, you're going to design units at the left. Make that inches. You also might see maybe manufacturing. It depends on what versions you got here. If you see that manufacturing one too, make the manufacturing one also inches, because that'll come in handy when we start the CNC stuff. Okay, so now we're ready to start. What I do as I do this is, generally, I will have this up on the other window. And if I'm watching the tutorial, which is found on that link that I put on Google Classroom, if you're watching the tutorial, that should probably also be on the other screen. Now, I only have one presentation screen, so I'm going to try to skip between them. All All right, so let's see what this guy has to say.
Everybody, welcome to Titans of CNC Academy. My name.
One second, I forgot to switch my audio over.
Name is Billy Boyce, and right now I'm going to take you through modeling the Titan-1M. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with sheet number 1 of 3. First thing we want to do is make sure we are in the design workspace, and let's go ahead and create a sketch. So we'll go ahead and click create sketch. We'll choose this top plane, and we're going to go ahead and go to 2-point rectangle. Then we're going to come over here and click right in the center one time, and then we're going to drag over and down. I can see the green highlight in that box. We want to make sure that says 1.9. Then I'm going to press tab and say 4. Enter. Now I'm going to come up here to solid, say extrude, and then type in -0.75.
All right, so I just want to stop it there and try to take a second to catch up. I did notice that my view, it looks really kind of janky, so wanted to turn that up. So I'm going to hit Shift Tab and should be able to switch between the things I have open. All right, so I see my Fusion, and I actually love watching videos where I know I could do this on my own, but I like watching the video because I just learned something new. And this happens a lot. I did that a lot of times with Blender things. I'll learn a new way, or I'll get some more understanding, and it's really good. Even though I know how to do it, watching other people is like enlightening sometimes. So what he did was he started a sketch, made sure he was on the top view, which you could tell from the cube that I'm clicking on top. And notice that when he made this, I usually just use lines, but he did a rectangle. So he clicked on the rectangle and he started at the 0, 0 point. That's the baseline when you're looking at the plans. And instead of like making this and then typing in the numbers, I believe he just typed them in. So what was this, 4, and then he hit tab, and that switches it, and then I believe it was at 1.9. I'm going to check that in a second, but then enter. Now we got that. So yeah, so 4 and 1.9. Now instead of finish sketch, he just hit enter, or he just went into solid and then extrude. All right, now I almost always just hit finish sketch, but this works, and it just automatically kicks you out of the mode. Now, yeah, I used to just push this down and then type it in. He actually just straight up typed it without even having to touch the screen. So I'm learning new things that actually will speed this up if I could type right. All right, so -0.75, because he wants to go down. And now we are caught up. Another thing he mentioned, or he will mention, that I learned totally new in this program. I just learned that if your view is like a little bit wonky, let's say you're over here and you want this to be centered, you just double click with your middle mouse wheel, boom, boom. It just centers it. Boom, boom. Like, so cool, centered. And then when you go to rotate, it's like perfectly centered. I never knew it was so easy. You just double click with your middle mouse wheel. Thought I'd make that known. All right, back to the video.
Enter. I'm going to go ahead and double click my center mouse button and it should bring it right back in the center and in view. Now I'm going to come up to fillet. I'm going to go ahead and select the 4 corners. I am able to select through the part and get that other corner. And that's going to be a 10 thou, 0.01. Enter. And that finishes off sheet 1 of 3, so we can go ahead and move to sheet 2 of 3. Here
Before we get too far, I'm going to catch up. So he just used a fillet, which is up here. I learned something. I might not have really forgot it, but if I click on fillet and I click on all 4 of these, you'll notice that this one you don't even need to rotate for. Like he said, once you are in the area, you can just select it. All right, so you can see over here I got 3, now I got 4, and I can just type 0.01 and enter. Now, at this point, I wanted to point out a function of the software that you may have forgotten about, which is at the bottom here. We have our timeline, right? So obviously we just did that fillet, but this timeline has a record of we did a sketch, we did an extrude, we did a fillet. Now, if I move this back, you can see it undoes certain aspects of it. So that will be useful in the future, but also you can double click on any of these and you can go back and edit it. So let's pretend I had the wrong number in there. You know, I thought I typed it right and I was like looking at it and I'm like, well, that's really obviously different. So in order to fix that, all I have to do is go back down here in the timeline and you can see it highlights it when you click it. But then you just double click, 1, 2, and I can simply put that new 0 in there. All right, so, and that works, you know, with everything. You could go in and you could edit your sketch. You know, perhaps I had this at something crazy, right? As soon as you hit OK, it actually will update it. And it still has like it still has the stuff after it. Like it still has that fillet and stuff. So obviously that's crazy. I'm going to undo as much as I can. Control Z, back to normal. Okay, so we're going to continue with the video.
The holes. So let's go ahead and come up to create sketch. We'll choose that surface. Go up to create and point. I'm going to go ahead and kind of drop down all the points roughly in the same pattern as the print, and now we'll add some dimensions to that. So we'll come up to sketch dimension, or you can just type D on your keyboard for dimension. I'm going to go from the center point there, or our edge, to that point. That's going to be 3.85. Enter. From here to here, 2.85. From here.
Okay, so I'm going to pause this for a second because
to here.
I believe we can extrapolate what we need to get on our own at this point. And we'll kind of skip forward. All right, so obviously he's looking at this in his other window or somewhere else. But you can see there's 7 points. Now, he put the point down first. He just eyeballed where they're going to be. And then he started doing all the top baseline dimensions. I just wanted you to know that you could also do, because everything has 2 measurements. You could do the 2 measurements for this hole, You could do the 2 measurements for this one. So like, of course, there's many ways to do this. I'm going to try doing it the other way real quick, just so you can see how this is going, because you can pretty much complete this, at least this section, just using your own brain. So I'm going to start this with my sketch right on the top, which, by the way, I had this rotated. Let me fix that. All right, so sketch on the top. I'm going to use points, which I haven't really used points before. I used to just draw the circles and then move them. So this is pretty cool. We're going to do point. I think I hit the wrong button. All right, and I'm just like peppering these where they are. So I know there's 1 here, about 1 here, about 1 there. 4 at the top, or 5 at the top, and then these are lined up. So if it lines up automatically, that's fine, because that's how they are in real life. All right, and shortcut. You click on this. It says the shortcut is D, and let's just start getting this stuff in. All right, I got from here to here. For that, it was 0.15. And if I, instead of just doing all the top, I could just do 2 for each point, and that was also 0.15. Right, so either way is fine. I'm going to continue. Now, if these get in the way at some point, you can always move them. All right, but this one says it was 1.15. 1.15. And from here to here, that was 0.3. All right, now, if you guys wanted to start doing this on your own as I'm kind of recording it, that's fine. You know, if you're following this video, you could kind of skip past this if you get the gist. Sorry, that was 2. And this is 1.26. If I could type right, that'd be help. Right. Yeah, and like as you start to get more and more, you might want to move these. These are really for function. They're not necessarily for documentation for people to see. So if the dimensions aren't pretty, that's okay. All right, so I want to get to this one. Remember, we're measuring always to the 0, 0 point. And make sure your dimension doesn't go like aligned. It doesn't go like on a weird angle. It's always vertical or horizontal. Horizontal. It's a good word. All right, 2.85, and this one is 0.3. Put that there. Okay, this last one is 3.85. And from here to here is what? Try that again. From here to here. All right. 0.15. Okay. I just gotta do these. Oh, 1.7. And that is 0.15 away from here. Okay. 0.15. Come on. 1 point, 2 point. Yeah, that's correct. If you guys see a over constrained sketch, it either means there's already a dimension on it, or on the case of this one for me, what happened is when I drew the point, it knew to line up with that one. So it's always going to be in line with that. So it knows it has the same measurement, and you can see this symbol. That means vertical. It's lined up vertical. We can always get into the constraints later. I think we have in the past, not this year, but yeah. So I got all mine. I'm going to hit OK, finish sketch. And that's really all I'm going to do today. So if you get to this point, we're doing pretty good. You guys are welcome to watch the other parts of the video and try to go ahead. That's fine. As far as me helping you right now, I'm going to make this maybe a 2-part lesson. All right, and I'm going to stop my recording, and I can come around and help you guys if you have any questions. Remember, you can always watch the video that I will post too. All right, good luck, everybody.